What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation expert, money mindset and fulfillment coach, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur. Come sit with me while I spill the real tea on what it's like to practice using intentional manifestation, demystify all of the woo-woo and confusing bullshit that comes along with creating the life of your dreams, and give you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, spiritual, and professional growth journey. The goal of this podcast is to support and guide you towards manifesting all of your dreams, shed light on the things that people are too scared to talk about, and encourage you to become the person who gets to have it all, be it all, and do it all. I am so happy you are here. Let's fucking do this thing. What's up, loves? Welcome back to the podcast. I have such an incredible guest interview for you today on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I had the honor of bringing on my health coach, Miss Jaclyn Renee, onto the show. Jack has absolutely helped me completely transform my health over the past few months because for all of you, and I will do an entire podcast episode on this, but this year of 2022, my healing journey has really been dedicated for the most part to my physical health. And through that, there's been so much mental and emotional stuff that has come up as well that I've worked on and healed because for my entire life up until really choosing to put love and care and attention and focus into my body, I hated my body and I experienced some pretty intense health issues because of that. And again, I'll do a full podcast episode on that. But in this podcast episode with Jack, we really dive deep into chronic stress, regulating your nervous system, gut health, why majority of people have gut health that is not serving them, and how to really start to take these steps to prioritize yourself, prioritize your gut health, and get on a path that is going to allow you to feel so much better physically and mentally. And because of that, then also elevate into a higher vibrational state and manifest more of the things that you want into your life as a byproduct of that. So Jack is a holistic health coach and gut health expert. She is a former IBS struggler to now thriving and helping women empower themselves to fully heal their gut and go on this gut healing journey. And I seriously think that this is one of the most important episodes that have been recorded thus far for the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. So without a further ado, let's get into this interview with Jaclyn. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. Today we have my health coach, Miss Jaclyn Renee, on the podcast. Jack has absolutely helped me transform my health, and we're still just getting started on this journey, which I'm so grateful for because it has impacted not only my physical health, but my manifestations in ways that I never even knew was possible. And for that reason, I wanted to bring her onto the podcast because this woman right here is a bank of knowledge surrounding all of this stuff. And I know that all of you are going to benefit so much from it. So Jack, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Hey, it's so fun to hear. Like, I'm just excited. You're like, she's my health coach. That like makes me feel so special because I get to be a part of your life in so many special ways. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. 100%. So what I would love to kick this episode off with is if you would just give us like your story, your background of like what led you to be who you are and where you are today, doing the work that you do and making the impact in the world that you make.
How much time do we have? No. It's interesting that you bring this up and that we're talking about it because this morning I woke up and I don't journal a ton, but I journal. I guess I'm like a situational journaler. When I need it, I find myself journaling. But this morning I woke up and I had this intuition or feeling to just start writing out my whole story and starting to share more pieces of it, because I know so many people can resonate with it. I started writing it out. I was like, man, I've been through some shit. Like, it's crazy to know, how far you come. And it's just been a ride. But, most people know that I've struggled since I was a baby. My mom didn't know really what to do in the 80s when your baby is sick all the time. And then your kid, when I got into being a toddler and a young child, I was bloated all the time. Every food I ate made me sick. I was very emotional child. Like, I would act out a lot. And I had, just like attention disorders, big attention disorders. I was never fully diagnosed, but a lot of attention problems. And it was tough, I think, for my parents to manage me because they weren't sure how, and they didn't know why. So then I got into my teenage years and you hit puberty. And so what was then we would call gut issues manifested into anxiety disorders. And so then instead of going to like gut doctors or, your PCP, now I'm seeing therapists and psychologists and, being diagnosed with panic disorder and bipolar disorder because they can't figure out what's wrong with me internally. So they put it on something is wrong with my brain.
Yep.
And that was super isolating because, you're in high school, it's already crazy, weird in high school. And, at least then we didn't have, when I was in high school, we didn't have social media. I can't even imagine if that would have been on top of it. But I had cystic acne all over my face. I had a lot of just angst and anger. I would hit things and throw things, not people, but my anger would manifest into like if a cup was on a counter and I was mad enough, it could get thrown across the room, and so, these diagnosed, nothing ever came of it. And then when I was 19, 20, I started seeing specialists like gastroenterologists, autoimmune doctors, and nothing, like 3 colonoscopies, a scope, an MRI, could never really figure out what was going on. And I also don't think that the technology then, there was a lot that was different, and nothing ever really came of it. And then when I was around 20, just before my 21st birthday, I developed a chronic cough, and the cough was so heavy and the mucus was so thick, sorry for being gross, but it was so heavy that I couldn't really work because I would start coughing and it would be like this coughing fit where it felt like I was choking, something like nothing would come up, but I would be choking and I would have to leave work. And at the time I was doing hair, so I would have to leave and have to cancel my clients. And that went on and off for about 6 months until the stylist I was working for, she said, you should go see this woman, Dr. Ellen Kahn, who is an ND or a naturopathic doctor. And I had no idea what that meant, had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I knew I had to pay out of pocket for it because it's not covered by insurance. So I went and she taught me about leaky gut. She taught me about gluten allergies and sensitivities. She taught me about candida. She taught me about toxic products and, chemicals. And she taught me about the brain gut connection. And I worked with her pretty much on and off for, I think, at least 13 years. And then she was retiring, which is why I stopped seeing her. And from there, it was just like learning, just like you're learning your healing journey. You're uncovering what's going on. You're figuring out, okay, a little bit of the gut, a little bit of the hormones. It was just me peeling each layer year after year after year after year, basically. That's kind of the story. I did have relapses. I did have dark periods of time while healing. In the last 20 years, I had a couple flare-ups and a couple really bad moments where a lot of it came back. And, this one moment, I remember this one moment about 7 or 8 years ago when I was so anxious and in so much panic over my health issues. I was literally laying in the bottom of my closet, just like wanting my life to be over and actually threatening it and saying, I don't want to live anymore. And, we all hit that darkest moment where we become so weak. And the only thing you can do at that point, at that moment, is release. Is literally like the only thing you have energy to do, because you've been doing. You just finally say, okay, like, I give up. And that's when things always start getting so much better, right?
Yeah, my God, that's been my reality. And I know so many of the women that I work with's reality is like, yeah, that moment of just pure surrender, that you're finally like, okay, like, cannot, and God, angels, universe, like whatever it is that anybody who's listening believes in, just truly like guide me in those moments, which is always so scary, but also so powerful to be able to then show up on the other side of it and be able to look back and tell that kind of story. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And one of the things that came up for me as you were talking about all of that, and really piques my interest, because I know that it's something that I've experienced in the past, and I think that a lot of people experience, is what you're talking about with anxiety and like the emotion that you're experiencing due to your health and like gut issues. So would you speak into a bit of that for all of us?
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw a couple of weeks ago, I was at a summit and I saw Dr. Carolyn Leaf speak, who I believe she's a psychotherapist. I might be misspeaking that, but she's in the field. She's in the field of neuroscience. And she wrote a book called The Mismanagement of the Mind, basically. And she believes that there is so many people out there that have been misdiagnosed with anxiety disorders or mental health issue disorders that are just not managing their mind the right way or managing their health the right way. And when I started learning about the brain gut connection, I understood why I was so angry or had angst inside my body, or why I would have these weird reflexes that when I would get so overwhelmed, my first instinct was to like pick something up and throw it, or to hurt myself, not in a way where I was like actually hurting myself too much, but just like, pull my hair, or just like, squeeze my hand so hard it would hurt, but like I couldn't get this emotion out. And meanwhile, everyone is looking at my brain. No one is looking at my gut. No one is understanding that everything that I'm experiencing, suicidal thoughts, anxiety so bad you're catatonic and can't move, overwhelmed to the point you can't even pick out what shirt to wear. You're so overwhelmed with it. Can't make a decision. You're afraid of everything. You don't want to leave your house. It's all because I don't have the right bacteria in my gut, and that my gut lining is damaged. That is a crazy thing to me. Like when I learned this, I was like, that is mind blowing. And if I heal my gut, these things go away. It's just insane. And so the more I started to learn about that, the more I understood how incredibly connected the brain and the gut were, and how important your gut health is to every single other disease or diagnosis or issue you're having in your life. Sometimes people won't even actually experience what we would consider like chronic gut issues, or looking at gut issues. Like we would see that as like constipation, diarrhea, gas, these things like, oh, we see our belly bloat, or we feel it in our gut, or our stool changes. Some people are having things that you don't even know would be related to it, and it's just causing more anxiety in their bodies. So it's an incredible discovery learning about the brain gut connection, but it is so directly connected. And so if somebody is listening and they do have both, or feel anxiety and gut issues, the goal is to really, yes, you want to work on stress management, and you want to release, and you want to trust, and have all these things, but really to look deeper inside your gut and resolve these gut issues is the core of understanding how you can let go of a lot of the other stuff.
So fucking powerful.
Yeah.
When I said at the beginning, like, this has absolutely changed my life, I'm not kidding, because that was my situation and my reality for my entire life. up until finding intentional manifestation and like doing the inner work was like just constantly being plagued with anxiety and like, yeah, self-harming thoughts and actions. And while yes, absolutely, like the work that I do with manifestation and like the inner work got me so much further than I ever thought was possible, this was definitely like such a huge missing piece. And there was almost like anger that I experienced at the very beginning of my gut healing journey because we're not taught any of this shit, especially in the American society. And like, especially then when you go to the supermarket and like you look at the foods we're being taught to buy and like being like manipulated essentially into thinking are healthy for us or like good for kids or whatever it may be. It's like, no fucking wonder so many people are sick and so many people are experiencing this.
Propaganda. It's literally propaganda. Keep everyone sick and the world keeps going around. The big companies make money. The hospitals stay busy. The drug companies stay in business. And that's how this world is working. I would say that's how America is working, actually, because a lot of other countries are not working that way. But, you're hand fed from a young age, everything from, trick or treating is like candy, and then you're eating candy for months. And, in health class in middle school, I learned to bake a pie. That's what I learned in health class, how to bake a pie and how to sew a pillow. That's what I learned in health class. Nobody teaches you about, forget about like, obviously we learn this deeper stuff, but like no one teaches you to eat balanced meals. Like you need to eat a balanced meal. And the food pyramid is opposite of how we should be eating and, or how to manage stress. Life is going to get stressful, kids. When it does, you should take a deep breath and you should talk about your feelings. God forbid you should talk about your feelings. It's crazy to me. You're right.
Yeah, 100% it is. And so for the people who are listening that are like, okay, like what the fuck is the brain gut connection? Because I was in that position, honestly, not that long ago. Can you give us some information on like what that is and what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially you have a nerve called the vagus nerve that starts behind your ears and travels through your body. And it's connected right into the connective tissue of your gut lining, or into what we now consider to call the gut, the second brain, which it's kind of the first brain now because it's actually reacting, more than the regular brain is. And so this nerve is, transmitting fibers back and forth and messages back and forth all day long. 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, we were not as stressed as a society as we are now. And so its usual normal route of communication would be a little bit of stress, sending messages, calming down, digesting food, relaxing. Now, in 1 hour, you may have 5 fight or flight responses, an email you have to rush to, a client that's calling you, your mom calls you for something, somebody pisses you off at the grocery store. And so you keep compounding that. And now the pathways can't keep up. The messages are going back and forth way too fast. It would be like if a city had built roads for 1,000 people with cars, and all of a sudden 4,000 extra people moved to that city in 1 month. So LA, basically no one can move. It's gridlock because there's so many things going on, right? There's so many messages going back and forth. And so what happens is it kind of, in layman's terms, short circuits, and it starts to create inflammation, and your gut lining starts to wear away. Now, if we kind of dig into the gut lining a little bit more, you have a couple protective layers. You have what are known as villi, that I call the nose hairs of the gut. They're kind of like these finger-like substances that push everything through. If you if you sniff in and there's pollen or something, your nose hairs are there to kind of protect you, and you sneeze. That's your response to protect you. So the villi need to be strong so they can kind of sweep the bad stuff through. And then in between the villi, you have tight junctions. And these junctions are like, I call it like the game of Red Rover, right? You link hands and you don't want to let go. You don't want to let anything through. These junctions need to stay tight. And then on the other side of the junctions, you have the connective tissue and the muscle tissue. And then on the other side of that, you have the blood. So that's the protective lining. Now, if you've been on antibiotics, if you have been, stressed, if you've had a baby, if you've been on birth control, anything that's sort of happened to you that's traumatic in your life, and you've had a lot of brain gut connection things going on, these messages, it starts to wear away the villi. The villi can come inflamed. And if those start to separate, so do the junctions. Like if there were two really weak people in the Red Rover game and someone knew they could get right through them, they break through, the junction opens, and now your bloodstream is exposed to food coming in and toxins coming in. And that's extremely toxic to your body. And it's a really big reason why people have brain fog, anxiety, IBS, IBD, SIBO, all of these things that we hear about, brain gut connection disorders, because now what you eat that your body is supposed to like dispose of these toxins and food through stool is going into your bloodstream, which is a not normal thing that the human body is supposed to do. So the human body has to adapt. How does the human body adapt? Usually when the human body is adapting, it shoots out inflammation to protect you. Like if you scrape your arm and then you get red and you get a scab and then you pick the scab and it goes away, that's normal inflammation to protect your body, or what we call acute inflammation. When that's happening in your body over and over, that's chronic inflammation. Your inflammatory response does not know how to shut off. And so autoimmune, chronic inflammatory diseases come in, and it makes it worse and worse. And that's where I think most people see concentration issues, the really crippling anxiety, because when that's toxic, it penetrates what we call the blood-brain barrier. So now your hypothalamus, which is responsible for that brain gut connection too, is triggered. So anything, you could lash out, you could have a panic attack, you could feel like have so much fear. And we think of those things as brain diseases, but they're really gut disease manifesting as brain issues. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Try to make it super simple.
Yeah, no, all of that makes so much sense. And it's so interesting because one of the biggest things that I thought prior to like learning all of this and working with you was that like, it was just normal to feel like tired and have brain fog and not have energy to get out of bed in the morning, and to have really bad period symptoms before my period, and to have chronic acne and anxiety and all of these different things based off of like, just like the way that that's all been normalized in our society. But it's like, it's not normal.
I say a lot of times, like to potential clients or just talking on my social channels, you have no idea how good your body is actually designed to feel. I think there's very few people in this world that fully experience their body on the highest level. I actually don't think that I have even experienced my body at the highest level. I think I'm getting close to understanding and to feeling what that looks like, but it's beyond. It's seriously beyond. I mean, like, we are meant to do so many incredible things with our body. I mean, if you honestly think about it, the way we came onto this planet, some people believe, I believe, we were hunters, so we were able to like run down our prey, like run down and get our food for this. And now it's like, I'm too tired to go to the grocery store. we're in a big gap here. We have a big bridge to get over, from being like our primal beings, our primal body and what we're capable of, to where we are now. And I do think a huge part of that has to do with the fact that we're doing way too much. Our body isn't capable of this amount of stress. It's more capable of the amount of physical. Like, it's probably a lot easier for people to, flip a tire or get a baby out of a burning car, or like, do something very, very aggressive with physical, than it is to handle mental. We're not necessarily equipped for that much, which is why self-help and self-care has become so popular, because people are waking up and realizing you just can't do this to yourself anymore. Your body is not designed to be pushed that far ever.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And this, but for all of the listeners, like, one of the biggest things that I've really become aware of and have put so much focus and attention into this entire year, 2022 has been like my year of finally putting my focus and attention into my physical body, because prior to this year, I hated my body for my entire life due to like trauma and my upbringing and all of these different things. And there's just like so many moments that were like, that has to change. Like, this vessel that I get to be in every single day, like, gets to have the love and attention that I'm trying to pour into other things. And when I do give that to myself, then that will allow me to actually be able to show up in the other aspects of my life in the way that I want to. But within that, it's been a lot of like the nervous system regulation sort of stuff that ties into gut health. So I know that there's like a lot, especially on Instagram, again, in like the fields that we're in, and like personal development, self-help, health, whatnot, talking about like nervous system regulation. And I know that it plays so huge into gut health, but it also plays so huge into manifestation. So will you share like a little bit with us on what it means to have a regulated nervous system versus like what it means to be in like an activated nervous system?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do you mind if I share a little bit about your first part of the journey? Yeah.
Totally. Go for it.
Because we did that bioresonance scan. And interestingly enough, your nervous system came up very stressed, very weak.
Yep.
And you were like, Jack, this sucks. Like, I don't feel like I'm stressed. I don't feel like my nervous system. And I was like, okay, that's okay, because most people aren't aware that they are under chronic low-grade stress all day. They just think like, oh, I have to get this done. I have to check off my list. I have to do this. I have to do that. And now I'm super tired and I'm just going to go to bed. I'm going to do it all over again the next day.
Yep.
And there's no awareness into how they're actually doing something. Like when you're cooking food, are you just naturally rushing through that? When you're, typing an email to a client or something, are you just powering through that? We're not aware of being addicted to this chaotic, chronic stress life that I think, American society has kind of embedded on us. And, so most people say like, no, I don't feel stressed. I don't feel stressed. But underlying is like a pipe waiting to burst. And like, you're just going to explode. And I do feel like you got in front of it before it could have gotten bad. But as you start to pay attention to it, you're like, oh, I see that I'm more stressed than I actually thought when I actually start paying attention to it. And you were like, I'm really digging into the nervous system. I'm recognizing how I used to operate in the morning, how I used to rush through things, how I used to push with my business. And now once you've cut back and slowed down and changed your whole daily routine, so proud of you for that too, and how you manage your body, you're like, wow, the difference in it is so incredible. And so understanding the difference, what was your original question? I kind of got on a tangent there.
No, I love that. And just to add on to that really quick for all of our listeners, it's like 100% to what you said. It's like I had done so much work on like the stress and the limiting beliefs and all the things that were keeping me in like a state of like very obvious like anxiety and stress and whatnot, and then to be able to like return to a place of like what felt like ease and calm inside of my body. But yeah, there was still like rushing to my computer in the morning and like rushing to go do things, always multitasking, always like having all of these different things going on. And the more and more that I really was able to slow down and pay attention to my body, like literally, I remember, and like this is something that I still do pretty often, is like I just stand and I close my eyes and I like sway between foot to foot and just like feel in that, like, how do I feel inside of my body right now? And there were so many moments at the very beginning of this journey that I was like, oh my God, like, Kat, what are you doing? You need to be doing something else. Like, this is not productive right now. Whereas like now it's like, oh my gosh, like I can get into that sway. I can like feel my body flowing and moving in it. And I'm like, wow, it feels so much more safe than it used to. And through reconnecting with my body, I've really found that. But original question was, tell us a bit more about like having that very activated nervous system versus like having a regulated nervous system.
Yeah, so good question. You have in your nervous system, you have two subsystems. You have the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight, and the parasympathetic is rest and digest. And so the goal is to be in rest and digest majority of the day. That's a regulated nervous system. And that is where you can digest food. It's where you can process thoughts. It's where you can calmly do things. And then in fight or flight is when you're more elevated and you can, feel symptoms and signs of that. Maybe your heart races, maybe you sweat a little bit, maybe you're nervous or anxious or you have fear. So I would say that's more of a scarcity versus rest and digest is more of an abundance. And so if you are in a chronically stressed place, you kind of flatline in fight or flight, which means you're not really digesting anything you're eating. So you're probably chronically bloated or constipated because food is just stacking on itself, which in itself will cause, a lot of stress to the gut lining. And then it's almost like you become a robot. You do things because you're just getting through them. So many people can maybe relate to this. Like, let's say on your list was you have to go to the grocery store, you have to, cook some food and meal prep a little bit. You have to pick up the kids from school. You have to pick up the dry cleaning, and you have to drop something off at your mom's. Just like, and so that 5 hours that you have to get that done, you're literally rushing from thing to thing, even though you probably have plenty of time to do it and there's no need to actually rush through it, but your nervous system is so trained to rush through everything you do because you just think about the next thing, that you're just going from thing to thing, kind of like a bee. You're just buzzing from thing to thing in this chronically stressed state versus just saying, what's the difference if I just sit back and do it as if like I'm just moving through and flowing through. And this chronically stressed, I have to get stuff done. I have to cross things off of my list to do, and I have to just get through the day, is exactly what it's like being in a chronically stressed or chronically inflamed stress state, where someone who's like, okay, what do I feel like today? What do I need today? And how do I support myself the best? And how can I move through these days, with ease and flow? And that is more of where you want to be in rest and digest. But majority of us are in this chronically stressed state. And some of us aren't aware of it, but sometimes even if you are aware of it, like I'm aware of it and I still do it. I still will find myself being like, oh, let me do this. And then sometimes you're like, oh, all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock. Well, you rush through the day. Of course, all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock. You didn't provide yourself with 30 minutes to walk around the city or 20 minutes to eat your lunch, or, your friend asks you to go to breakfast and you're like, I have no time for breakfast. Are you kidding? Like, there's no way I can meet someone and have breakfast in the middle of the week. But why? You've been over in Europe and you can see the difference of how there's definitely a more relaxed culture. No one's struggling, It's just like we have this ability to push through, and that is chronically inflamed state. And I will tell you that it's the core of every disease. The core of every disease is being in a chronically stressed fight or flight response majority of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. That piece of information right there was such a mind-blowing thing to me, because again, I feel as though we're just not taught that. We're taught it's like, oh, it's doing XYZ, or it's being exposed to whatever thing. And it's like, or it's just like in your genes, when in reality, it's like, no, it's actually like these day-to-day choices that we're making.
Yeah. And it's like, if I look back, because if I look back on how things changed, like when did this start for American culture? Because I remember my grandma, so that would probably be, I was, let's say I was like 5, so that would be like 87. I remember my grandma being a very relaxed person. But I don't know if she was relaxed or if she was hiding chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom at 5 was a nervous wreck. She was chronically stressed. And so I thought about this only a couple years ago. I thought about this. What was the difference between those two? My mom had to work 2 jobs and she had kids, and my grandma didn't work. She just, that wasn't what women did. They took care of the house, and then the husband went to work. My grandpa worked for Hudson's for like 40 years. And that was what they did. And they were happy, and they kind of like lived their life like that. And then, I feel like maybe around the 80s or 90s, women started going back to work, which is awesome. I'm all for it. And I love it. I work very hard. But then you have 2 people working 8, 9-hour days, maybe even 2 jobs, plus taking care of 1, 2, maybe 3 kids. And so everything that needs to get done, laundry, house, food, are essentials, like water, like, pick up water, whatever it is, are essentials for life. They have to do that in like a couple hours a day, or in like a few hours a day. I remember my grandma would start cooking dinner in the morning, and like my mom was just like picking up dinner on the way home. Like, we're lucky if it was warm by the time it got to like, the counter. And that is a huge difference. And, we're both single, but I do think when it comes to being in a relationship with somebody, that someone needs to be responsible for sort of like taking care of the house and the food and stuff like that. It can be the man or the woman. It doesn't mean that nobody has to work, but there needs to be time for it, because what the shift has been with so much chronic stress is that there's no time for anyone to take care of themselves, which is like the very essentials. Like I read these old like Christian romance novels from like, the 1900s and the 1800s. And it was like, everyone was in a field and everyone cooked together, and you like picked your food, you planted your food. And we are so far away from that. Well, I do feel like we're getting a little closer. We're so far away from that. It's just like, if someone has time to eat, they are literally shoving it in their mouth as if it didn't even exist, as it took 10 times longer to make it. It took an employee, and it took like a machine, and it took all of these ingredients, and it's like gone in 3 seconds.
Yep.
We're not digesting that food. It's becoming toxic in our body. It's causing disease, not just gut disease, heart disease, diabetes, anxiety, all of these things that come along with it. And we do it all over the next day and the next day, until we're surprised that like we have a gallbladder attack, or that our liver starts shutting down, or that our adrenals are fatigued, or we're not making progesterone anymore, or we have infertility. We're very surprised. Like, how did this? I don't even know. I didn't even see this coming. It's like, if you think about it, how long have you been chronically stressed? And to expect that it's going to change in a 30-day diet is like ridiculous. It needs time. Like you're seeing with your healing journey, it's taking a year, and you're still learning and growing and changing. So, the concept of understanding that you need to have time in your day to take care of yourself, to feed yourself, to drink water, to sleep 8 hours. These things are mandatory and essential for life. And if they're not a part of your regular day, it's a good time to use this as a sign to shift and say, how can I actually make this a part of my day? What do I have to let go of that isn't serving me? You know?
Yeah, 100%. All of that it hits home with me for like where truly I was at when I first started this like health journey, and also where I know so many of the women listening to this podcast are at. And to like tie everything that you're just saying into like the manifestation process, because it's the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. It's like that energy you said of like chronic stress, that is the energy of scarcity. Whereas like the energy of taking care of yourself, prioritizing yourself, your health, and taking things more slowly and allotting specific amount of time to yourself every single day, as opposed to just feeling as though you have to be in the hustle, you have to be in the grind, you have to be doing X, Y, and Z to get whatever results or make however much money or whatever it may be. It's like actually prioritizing yourself in that kind of way. That is the energy of abundance. And that's also like the highest act of self-love that is available for us, which of course is then going to put you into the energy of abundance, which then will allow you to start to attract and manifest more things into your life of that vibration, which is so counterintuitive to what our, again, American society teaches us, which is like, you just got to be hustling, you just got to be girl bossing it, you just got to be working your ass off in order to move the needle forward and make it happen. But what I found for myself is that by actually slowing down and prioritizing myself and my health and what is essential for me on a daily basis, I work way less than I was before. And I see so much more result out of it because I actually have the energy to show up. I actually feel okay inside of my body. I actually have the mental clarity and the focus to be able to put all of my energy into something, as opposed to being in that perpetual state of stress and hustle where it's like, I'm there and doing it for 12, 14 hours a day, but like nothing's actually getting done. And just like creating this self-fulfilling prophecy of lack.
100%. And, you know, I'm paraphrasing this. I heard it somewhere, but it's like people work 9 to 5 to make money, to buy things they don't need, for things they don't like actually love, or something like that. I do know what I'm talking about, but it's like basically what it's saying is like, here's this hustle mentality that you need more money because you need more things to make you happy. But essentially, like none of that is really actually what's going to fulfill you. The only thing that's going to fulfill you is really connecting back to your relationship to yourself and loving yourself, like actually being in a relationship with yourself and speaking to yourself the way as if you had a daughter and you heard her speak negatively to herself. What would be the things you would say to her to get her better? You got to say those things to yourself, like literally look yourself in your childhood eyes and make it safe. And in to piggyback on what you said about, you know, abundance, there's also a part of it that we create as, like you said, oh, I got to get these things done. I'm working 10 to 12 hours and I'm not actually doing anything. It's a part of that big thing is decision fatigue, where we have so many options and the paradox of choice that it makes it harder for us to make decisions. And so they take longer and we stress more about them. And, you know, it just keeps going on and on. And so simplifying your life is one of the best things you can do to honestly begin your healing journey. Like, for instance, you know, my closet is very simple. Every day to work, I wear a button-up shirt because this is where people see me. Okay. I have 6 of them and I just rotate them through. When I'm done, I clean them, I put them back in and I go through. I don't have any decision fatigue. What am I going to wear? How am I going to do my hair? I'm going to do my makeup. Make it simple. And it sounds so funny to just be like, oh, why does that matter? But it takes away like 15 minutes of my day where I can spend extra time at the gym, or I can spend 15 minutes sleeping in or drinking tea on the balcony because I'm not stressed about what I'm going to wear. Or food, right? Like food, we overcomplicate it. We don't need to be 5-star Michelin chefs to make healthy food or to make food taste good. We can simplify it. We can create a very basic way of like, eating and rotating about 10 good meals. And when you get bored of that, learn one or two new ones and bring those in. Very simple ingredients, very fresh ingredients, and make it super simple. So you're not like, oh, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Oh, what am I meal prepping this weekend? You do these things that go on autopilot, and they're your non-negotiables. You're creating these standards to make your life more simple. We love to overcomplicate it. Add it in,
Yep.
So
100%.
about
I
that.
love that. It's funny because in my manifestation journey, and this is something that I've been reflecting a lot on recently, is that, yeah, what I initially started off, it was like, oh my God, like all of this, like the abundance, like more and more and more and more and more.
Mhm.
And it really has become, in especially this past year, just like allowing my life to be as simple as possible, and like still feel the like even more joy and like even more gratitude and love for everything, because it's really allowed me to like get down to the basics of like, yes, these are the things that actually bring purpose and meaning to my life, as opposed to, again, like the propaganda that we're fed of like, you need all of this shit.
Yeah. Like when I go into a manifesting session, I guess I'll call it, it's like what I used to manifest is like this big house and like a nice car and all of these things. And then I got them and I realized these things are so much work. I got to clean this big house, and I got to pay someone to clean it. I had to take care of the inside and the outside. I got to keep up on this nice car because, it's foreign and there's not many dealers by me. And so the parts are expensive. I just like created more problems for myself with more money. But now, when I go into a manifesting session, my manifestation looks more like inner peace. And yeah, I want financial abundance, but I want financial abundance to create like a legacy, to, build land or get land and build something on it that's sustainable, that you kind of can hide out from, and manifesting a partner who believes in this stuff, who's minimalist like me, and, cares about their health and is passionate about what they do. You just find like health is wealth, and you find what you really want to manifest or what you really need in your life. You have it all inside, and it starts inside of you, because if you're going to manifest things to make you happy outside of you, you're just going to be sitting in that car anxious and alone and pissed off, instead of like manifest the things that make you whole first. And then if you want the car, go ahead, like it's great. Like I love a nice car, you know what I mean? But do what's right for you first, so you feel whole, and know that these things aren't going to complete you. A partner isn't going to complete you. A car or a nice house isn't going to complete you. Complete yourself first, and then these things will come into your life in the way they are meant to,
So damn good. Yes, 100% all of that. And so for the women who've been listening to this that really resonate with everything that we've been talking about, like what are some of the first steps that they can take to start to prioritize themselves and their health?
Yeah, I would say a few things. Number one, if you have gut issues, I was like starting to think of the Jay-Z song. If you have gut issues, I feel bad for you, son. No, I'm just kidding. If you have gut issues, you got to resolve it. That is, you can't hide from it anymore. You can't be chronically bloated and dealing with secret diarrhea and worried about the next place you're going to go to the bathroom, or not pooping for 5 days because you're not detoxing. You got to take control of that. And you can't, manifest your way out of that. Like you have to make changes in your lifestyle. You have to make changes in your diet. You have to, this, you guys, Kat's been doing the hard work. Like no matter where she's been, whatever flight she's on, whatever flat she's living in, whatever country she's in, she's going to the health store, she's buying her health food, she's cooking it, she's taking her supplements, she's doing her exercise. Like she's doing the work that you need to change. And these are the first steps, is really get control of your chronic gut issues if you're experiencing them, because a lot will change. Like, how much of your life changed just by focusing on your health? You said your concentration was better.
Everything.
You know, your energy was better. You were stuck at a space where your weight wasn't budging, and then now your weight is changing. You know, things change so quickly when you really focus on your center, your gut health. So first thing is to step into that journey. The second thing is to simplify your life. Whatever you're doing now isn't working, and there's too much on your plate. So start eliminating relationships that don't serve you. Start eliminating, if your job isn't serving you, start looking at, this could take time, but start looking at how to get into a position that serves you better. Let go of the money controlling you, and know that when you're so much happier, that brings you more abundance. And obviously we know it brings you more money anyways. Simplify your closet, simplify your pantry, just make things really simple for you. That's like a huge thing. And then the third thing is to start developing what I would call a toolbox of stress coping mechanism skills. Learn how to meditate, learn how to do breath work, use exercise, walk, nature. Like, you can heal a lot just by getting out into nature, not like, just walk outside, but like get in with the trees for 20, 30 minutes. There's a lot that can heal from that. So getting into developing a toolbox for stress coping mechanism skills, but using them proactively, not just reactively, not, oh, I'm stressed now, so I guess I have to go do my breath work, but I'm going to do my breath work every day so I don't get stressed. Yeah. Heal the gut, simplify your life, stress coping mechanism toolbox.
Ladies, you heard her. Get on it.
And you don't, by the way, you do not have to do that all at once. Do it one at a time. And healing the gut in itself can take, for starters, 90 days, can take 6 months, can take a year, depending on how long you've been chronically stressed. So take your time, go through that first. Or maybe you're doing a little at a time, like a couple of the things. You don't have to overwhelm yourself. You don't need another restrictive diet. You don't need another book to tell you what to do. You just got to get in tune with yourself and slowly chip away at it.
100%. That's like the biggest thing that I believe in when it comes to all of the things that I teach and all of the things that I do in my life, is like, they should be long lasting and sustainable. And what Jack said of, do this in a way that is actually going to be sustainable for your life, because it's not just another 30 days of keto or the Atkins diet or whatever it may be. It's like actually creating long lasting shifts in your life so that you can have long lasting health and long lasting fulfillment. So awesome. Everything that you shared with us, Jack. One last question for you, and one that I love to ask every guest, is, what is one piece of no bullshit advice that you can give to the audience?
I wish I would have prepared for this question. No, I'm just kidding. I would say my no bullshit: stop caring about what other people think of you. Just like, stop. Because no matter what, if they are meant to be in your life, they will accept you as you are. And if you're acting out and they're your true friend, they will get you in line. They'll help you get in line. But if someone is dragging you down, or something is dragging you down, and you keep trying to appease it, and you keep trying to show up as not your truest, most authentic self, you can't keep that face up for so long. So stop trying to make other people happy. Turn the finger around and focus on you. And if anyone is stressing you out in your life, keep looking at yourself and thinking, how can I just make myself better in this situation? The more you focus on yourself, the more I call it like dangling vampires. My friend and I call it dangling vampires, because, people, they want to suck your blood and bring you down. Everything that's not serving you will fall off when you focus on you.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. No BS there. That is pure facts. And again, thank you so much for everything in this episode. I know that it's going to change so many people's lives because it's changed my life in such an incredible way. So how can people connect with you, and what do you have going on that they can be a part of?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on most platforms at Jaclyn Renee Wellness. That's my Instagram. That's where you can find me. On Facebook, I do have a private Facebook community. And depending on when this airs, it's called Beat the Bloat with JRW right now. But I'm transitioning my Facebook group into a gut healing community called the Gut Healing Sanctuary with JRW, as a more very safe and very private place for women to speak up and talk about the pain they are going through in their gut healing journey, whether it's physical pain or mental pain. Just a very safe community that I'm very excited to bring attention and awareness to. And I will definitely have you speaking in that one day. And so you can find me on that community. Right now, I have a really great offer that I want to just shout out to, because I think it's super amazing. It's a free course called Gut Healing 101. If you have no idea where to start on your gut healing journey, these are the 6 videos you want to watch. They're going to help you decode, understand holistic health. I have a quiz you can take to figure out on a scale like how bad your gut symptoms are and what type of action you might want to take, what people you should see, and where you want to go with it. And this can be very beneficial. And the link to that is on pretty much every channel, or in my bio on Instagram. You can find it on my website as well too. It's called the Gut Healing 101 free mini course. And I also have a podcast called A Gut Feeling with Jaclyn Renee, and a YouTube channel with a ton of videos with free information. I tell people this all the time. If you want to heal your gut, I mean, I have the Gut Healing mini course now, but if you want to heal your gut, go to my podcast and start listening to episode 1. And then just start listening to each episode week by week. You'll take one little nugget each week. You'll make a tweak, you'll make a change, and you'll start to feel a lot better.
Yeah, that's what, honestly, for everybody listening, what I did is I have the honor of like actually knowing Jack in my real life, but prior to meeting her face to face, I binged all of her content, and I was so excited to meet her in person because I was like, I had all of these questions. I was so scared to talk about them because like I didn't want anybody to know that I was struggling with these different things. And I binged all of her content. And then as soon as I met her, I was like, I think I need to work with you. So
I was like, bring it in.
Yeah. All of the links to everything that Jack just mentioned is going to be listed down below in the show notes for all of you to go check out. But again, just to like voice this has been one of the most life-changing things that I have done. And when it comes to manifestation, it has so much more impact than you realize. So please, ladies, if you're listening to this, like go check out Jack, go connect with her, go be a part of her world, because this is something that will also change your life.
Aw, you make me like tear up. You're so sweet. I'm so glad it's been so beneficial for you. It's been actually one of my favorite things in my life. Honestly, my life's work, is watching people go through their healing journey, because I know how hard it was for me. And I know watching someone go through it, that there can be ups and downs, but you've done an amazing job of showing up for yourself. And it just is really, really cool watching, the progression and seeing you grow and feel good. So it's been an honor and a privilege.
Hey, thank you. Thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I am so grateful to have these no bullshit talks with you. If you enjoyed today's episode or the podcast as a whole, please spread the love by leaving me a review on iTunes or sharing the podcast with others. This is how I will be able to spread more of these good vibes and be able to make more of an impact on the lives of others. And if you're not already part of all of the goodness and communities that I have to offer, check out the show notes. I have links to the different ways that I can support you on your manifestation journey and help you live a life full of more money, fulfillment, and freedom. But that is all for now. So big love and hugs, and I will chat with you soon, babe.